Let's talk Phil Foden. Phil Foden is one of the most talented footballers on planet Earth. He's one of the most valuable and it's for a reason. Your eyes tell you how good Phil Foden is, but it comes to a point where your estimation of a player has to be met by the reality of the player, and that is not currently being met. Now, form is temporary and class is permanent. He was the player of the year last season, and rightfully so. His performances were phenomenal, but at what point do we stop coddling him? At what point does he stop being the most protected player of this generation? Phil Foden is 25 in a month or so and is still the most protected player of this generation. We're still talking about how we can build England around him. And like I said last video, Foden, dog, water. But you get the point. They had people chipping in from everywhere. And when I slander Foden, by the way, this is sort of tongue-in-cheek. I'm very aware that he's a very talented footballer. He just gets coddled and doesn't produce enough considering the talent he has. Sometimes it's just like turn and shoot man or who. And we're talking about how can England build around Phil Foden? How can England build around the players that perform in an England shirt? How about we start there? How about you build around Bellingham and Saka? Cole Palmer. How about we talk about building the team around the players that perform in an England shirt? You build around Bellingham and you build around Saka. Let's start there. Now, Foden has become one of the most polarizing players in football. I feel like that's an objective fact. And the reason that is because people are frustrated at the preferential treatment that he gets, which is entirely valid. When X player performs to a certain level, they are called out immediately. But with Foden, it's, he wasn't in his optimal position. Oh, he didn't have an overlapping fullback. The fullback was right-footed in Kieran Trippier. He couldn't pass him at optimal angles, etc. We make all these excuses. We move Saka to fullback. We move Saka to wing back to accommodate Phil Foden in that 10. And does the performance improve? A little bit. Does he really make his mark on the game? No. Who does? The usual suspects. So you can see where the frustration comes when one player is being protected and, we need to build around him. He's the golden boy. He's the star based on an idea more than a reality. And obviously the idea does not come from nowhere. If he wasn't ripping it up for City, the idea wouldn't have been founded. If he wasn't Stockport Iniesta. Don't get it twisted. I used to be a Foden borderline stan. I'll put the tweets up. I used to support Phil Foden heavy. But at some point, the idea was not matched by the reality. Now, none of this takes away from how skillful Foden is. He's an intricate dribbler. He's excellent at receiving on the half turn. He's a dangerous player. But far too often he's anonymous and you're kind of like, where's Wally? Where is Phil Foden? Where's Walter? That's what I should say. Where is Walter? Because we're looking for him and we can't find him. And now the numbers speak for themselves. One thing I will commend him on is that he was brought up the right way. And I say the right way in the sense that I'm scared for Bellingham and Saka because they've been overplayed since they were kids and the injuries are starting to set in. Bellingham has played entire tournaments with knee straps. Saka's about to come back from a 4-month layoff from a hamstring injury, and that comes from being overworked. Whereas Foden, he's had a couple injuries here and there, but Pep has done a very good job at managing his minutes. He learned from the best in David Silva and KDB, and he was supposed to be the heir to the throne. But Pep has not. It took a while for Pep to trust him in the middle. Whether he still fully does, I don't know, because he didn't exhibit those game managing qualities that a modern day 10 needs to have. Because the modern day 10 doesn't really exist. You have to be that all-action midfielder, which is why Bellingham is perfect for England and he snatched Foden's chain. That's the simple way of putting it. He snatched Foden's chain. And people say, he's not playing well because Bellingham's in the way. If one person is standing up to be counted, if one person has those intangibles that's a leader that picks the men up when it's needed, who would you build around? I'm building around Jude Bellingham. Now, Foden is not a first phase player. He's not going to pick the ball off the centre backs and distribute it, start spraying passes. Not to say that he can't, although his physical profile doesn't really support that. Not to say that he can't, but he's not been asked to. Rodri exists. So why would you ask Foden to be there? You want someone with such good ball striking, such intricate passes to be in the final third, and that's valid. But then when that final third output is not reflecting, when he's not impacting these games, suddenly you have questions. Because it's not like, you can say, he played amazing, he was creating chances, because that's not been the case. And again, Foden has that je ne sais quoi that not many have. It's a certain it factor where it's like, he's got it. Like, he is one of those special talents. So I do understand where the fanfare and the mania comes, like, we can't just sideline this guy. We need to get the most out of him. But where do you draw the line? If it is a repeated pattern, manager after manager, system after system, it doesn't work. At what point do you look at the player? For Saka, the conditions don't have to be perfect. He's going to perform. For Bellingham, the conditions don't have to be perfect. He's going to perform. Cole Palmer scored in the Euros final off the bench. It didn't matter. And obviously, do I think less of Palmer as a player if he doesn't score one long shot goal? That doesn't change anything. But Palmer, you could say Palmer has eclipsed Foden. And who's really there to argue? And this is Palmer in a down year. Palmer hasn't had GA in like 10 games. But Foden, it's just been underwhelming on all parts. And why I say form is temporary, class is permanent, because I think he will bounce back, but I don't think he gets back into the England team. And this mania of, oh, he has to be there, we have to build around Foden is nonsense. Nothing short of nonsense. It's not a case where a manager's being ludicrous and, he's not getting opportunities. He's getting plenty. Different positions, left, middle. He's not getting on the right because Saka exists, but Saka's been injured, so the right as well. And he's just leaving a lot to be desired. He really is. It's not a case where you have Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, 3 players for 2 positions and all are world class. Because we've been told that Philip Walter Foden is versatile. He can play on the left, he can play on the right, play on the middle. So why are we now being told, oh no, his best position, you're not like, no, I thought he was Mr. Versatile. When I was being told Foden was better than Saka, part of the argument was, oh, Foden can play here, Foden can play there, he can do this. Do it. If you play Saka on the left for England, I assure you he will deliver. Right's his best position, but I'll assure you he'll deliver. Play Saka central, between the lines. We don't see it enough for Arsenal, which is quite sad because Saka has put in some fantastic performances playing between the lines, but it's not what our system at Arsenal demands, so he, sticks to his position. But I assure you he'll do it. If you put Jude in a difficult position, I assure you he will make the most of it. But with Foden, it's like everything has to be perfect. But I feel like the best players, it shouldn't be that way. And I'm not saying actively inconvenience your starts, but at some point, it's not a case where Scholes was a CM being forced to play LM to accommodate Gerrard and Lampard. That's not the situation. It really isn't. Foden is supposed to be able to play that position. That's what we've been told. So which one is it? Can he play wide or can he not? And if he can't, that lowers his estimation as a footballer. He's not as versatile as we were told. And the truth is, sometimes when you have an embarrassment of riches, you have to prioritize. Spain won the World Cup, won the Euros, won the World Cup, and won the Euros again. Who was on the bench? Fabregas at times. Sometimes he played false 9 because who was behind him? Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. Can't really bench those guys. Same way you can't bench Jude Bellingham. You can't bench Declan Rice. So it's where do you fit in Phil Foden in this midfield setup? Xabi Alonso and Fabregas and David Silva, all these world-class players, don't have as many Spain caps as they deserve, but that's the reality of the situation. If there's a better player in that position, don't inconvenience the rest of the team because of one player. England would be better with an inside forward or a touchline winger than they would be with Phil Foden. And that is just the reality of the situation. Phil Foden on the left. If he goes and snatches Jude's chain back, cool. No problem. I don't think he will. There is a world where you say, okay, can Jude play next to Rice, receive the ball more of the centre-backs and Foden plays ahead? But has Foden done enough to deserve that kind of treatment? If we're going to do that, would you not put Cole Palmer? I would. I personally would. I think Cole Palmer's more deserving of that kind of, mental gymnastics, essentially. And obviously, with Tuchel coming in, he's a new manager. He's still figuring out his team. But I don't blame him for saying he hasn't seen enough from Foden. And he said the same about Rashford, just to be transparent. He did say the same about Rashford. But Foden is the one where everyone's like, oh, how can we get the best out of him? And it's like, why? Who granted him that privilege? Why has he got this, sacred crown that he's the ordained golden boy? I think the sweeping issue here is this notion that Foden is untouchable. But nobody is untouchable. We're not dealing with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo here. Nobody in this England setup is untouchable, except Saka. But his performances have not merited that in an England shirt. You could argue that, Neville is right. He won Player of the Year for a reason, which 100% did. He deserved it. But all these qualities we see, if it's not translating, who do we blame for that? How many managers do you blame for that? How many systems do you blame for that? And if you're always questioning the system, does that make him a system player? Jude is the modern day 10. He is box to box. He does have that work rate. He's an artist and a monster at the same time. Physically, he's a dual monster. He will track back, but then he has the technique. And sometimes that's underrated because it may not be aesthetically pleasing, but give me results over aesthetics 10 times out of 10. And when I say results, I don't just mean GA. Football is not deduced to GA. You want to enjoy the football you're watching 100%, but give me effectiveness, give me chances created, give me something tangible over the idea. The problem with Foden is that too often we're talking about the idea more than the reality. Foden has 4 England goals in 44 games. 4 for 4. Shout out to the boys. That's mid. That's poor. Beyond mid. Very poor. Foden went to the Euros and Me and Foden had the same number of goals in the Euros. Me and Foden had the same number of assists in the Euros. The other Euros where he dyed his hair blonde like Gaza, what did he do? He had more yellow cards than shots on target. So you already know he didn't score. He didn't assist either. I don't remember one. And now these England teams were not playing free-flowing football where everyone was chipping in attacking-wise. Of course, it was kind of get it where you can. You know, Palmer comes on, gets his goal in the final, long shot. Saka against Switzerland, you just have to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. And there are players that do that. Look at all the others. Kane had moments in that Euros. He scored against Slovakia in extra time to win the game. Bellingham had moments. He saved England from the most embarrassing defeat in football history against Slovakia with a bicycle kick. Saka against Switzerland, moments. Palmer in the final, moment. Where's Foden's moment? Where's Wally? Where is he? Why can the others all leave their imprint on the game and he can't? Are the others all playing in a perfect system that suits them to a T? I assure you they're not. But when players are performing to a certain level, we don't deduce ourselves to these conversations about, oh, it's not perfect. You know, he's not in his perfect position. He doesn't have this type of player around him. If you need all that, are you not a system player? And I don't want to reduce Foden to a system player. But again, the idea versus the reality. There are rarely absolute facts in football. The truth is often somewhere in the middle. Is Foden this terrible player that will never play for England and shouldn't? No. Is he this golden boy that should be built around? No. The truth is somewhere in the middle. Perhaps there are things that can be done to improve his performance and to support him more. And I do respect the fact that he is supposedly going through mental issues, etc. I don't want to get into that too much, but it's just that others aren't afforded that privilege. When Rashford is going through things and is tweeting all the time, we're like, bro, stop writing epistles and go and get some shots in training. That's what we tell him. So why is it different for Foden? It's the point where you need to be established by now. We need to know your best position. And if that best position is the 10, then unlucky, Jude Bellingham is better. In modern day football, Jude Bellingham is a more impactful player than Phil Foden. I don't know many managers that would swap the two for CM. And on the wing, he's not better either. But before you used to tell us he was. So which one is it? The story and the goalposts just keep shifting, which is where the frustration comes from. No one wakes up and hates Phil Foden. But people hate the narratives that surround him, that he is this borderline messiah that England absolutely have to accommodate, and it's egregious to leave him out. It isn't. It really, really is not. And I think perhaps if his performances at City were better this season, maybe it would be different again. We'd be more receptive to this idea. But when he's not playing well for club or particularly well, and yes, City are struggling, but again, when the chips are down, where's Wally? Where's Wally? Where's Walter? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, but and I'm not saying everyone should jump off the Foden hype train because, again, he's an incredible footballer who I enjoy watching. I'll keep rephrasing that so you can take my words at face value. But it's just got to stop. Sometimes players just perform poorly. That's just the truth of it. There may be a reason. Things may have not been perfect. But the others stand up and are counted. And that cannot be said for Phil Foden. Iniesta played wide sometimes. You have to adapt in international football. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not like you can just sign somebody else. Your teammates are your teammates based on birth country. Saka is there. Deal with it. Bellingham is there. Deal with it. Rashford exists. Deal with it. Kane exists. Deal with it. How is Foden going to deal with it? Because the others have been moved around for him. We've tried that already. It didn't work. So now it's time for him to adapt. You can't ask Saka to play fullback again. That's disrespectful. He's the best, I was going to say best right wing in the world. He's a top 3 right wing in the world. Salah, Yamal, whoever you want to call. Saka's in that discussion. Is Foden the best cam in the world? No. He's sure as hell isn't the best left winger in the world. So we can't continue doing these mental gymnastics. International football is often about who can do the most out of structure, who can make something happen, because at the end of the day, you don't have all the time in the world to be coached to death. Maybe that's the problem. At City, they are coached to death. So when it gets to international football, you don't have that, you're not used to that creative freedom if you're even being afforded it. Maybe that is one of the issues. So him being a system player is not necessarily his fault because he's grown up with Pep his whole career. That's the only manager he's ever had. Pep's been at City for a long time. Foden's 24. I'm pretty sure that's the only senior manager he's ever had. So we cannot blame him for that. But when does the boy become the man? He's become the man for City. He took the keys. KDB was injured. Foden was like, I got it. He led them to that title. Full respect. But for England, it's a different story. And he hasn't earned that right.